their own stuff without really a rhyme or a reason, right? Hands up, you got some of those? This is an awesome way to go and say, here's how you can optimally utilize that time, right? How many people do you also get when you do an onboarding session? You know, I run like 3 times a week and I still just get fatter and fatter and fatter and I feel like shit, right? That's a big problem for people. What happens is they may not use the right fuel source for their lifestyle, for their nutrition, for their workout habits, or even for their goals. So the metabolic assessment, the active metabolic assessment takes that and it gives you a rhyme and a reason on what to do for cardio, your frequency you should do for cardio. And then that's where you insert yourself as a fitness professional, go and help that person with what's great for you, what's gonna help you get to your goals based off of my experience, my education, my knowledge. As far as becoming a metabolic tech, there's a lot of stuff to go over. So like, I could probably talk to y'all for 8 hours. Y'all would want to leave by then. But there's like 8 hours worth of like stuff and knowledge and everything to go through. So I'll break it down kind of real simplified. What I'll do is I'm going to open up my calendar and kind of have a steady time for everybody to just jump in, whether you want to get your own metabolic assessment, whether you want extra education on this, because this is a tool everybody can use. Everybody can become a technician, but also at the same time, you may not want to become a tech, you may want to refer somebody to a technician and then take it from there. But every single PT, dynamic personal trainer here, can use metabolic. So if I were a tech and you referred me your client, I would do the test, we'd review the results, and then you would take that from there on what you prescribe. Or that person could still do metabolic coaching and conditioning with me. So we'll kind of go through the whole spectrum of it. Now, I pulled up a couple of slides from the call that they had. The problem that you go and see with people when they go and do their cardio on their own is they're either not pushing themselves hard enough, or they're going and pushing themselves way too hard, or they don't give themselves enough time to go and adequately recover. So this is just kind of like a chart of your fuel systems. Think of those people. I get out there, I do 5 miles an hour, and I'm just like running and I'm hustling, but they're probably like 50 pounds overweight. That may be too hard, where by the end of it, they've just pushed themselves, and they've always been in this like carbohydrate burning zone because they're working so hard and they have so much extra weight. Now at the same time, maybe that person that wants to lose 50 pounds, they go on the treadmill with an incline of maybe 0.5, because I hear you should do an incline, and I walk at like 2.2 miles an hour. They're just not burning calories fast enough. They could do that forever. They could probably be on the treadmill for 4 or 5 hours and just not, they'll get a little fatigue, like muscle soreness and stuff, but like they won't really be out of breath for doing that. So what we do is we really hone in on where's your aerobic base, and your aerobic base, what is that? Anybody know? It's right between zone 1 and zone 2. Yep.
We're using oxygen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you use a lot. Yeah, perfect. So a lot of oxygen is being used to go and burn fat. Okay, that's how they're replenishing it. So they're taking the fat, like the fat stored fat, and then they're using that as energy through oxygen. Now, anaerobic threshold, what's that? That's where you're transitioning, right? Yep. Yeah. So your AT, that's where you're transitioning from. Theoretically, you're no longer utilizing fat as a fuel source, and you're only utilizing carbohydrates as a fuel source. So I want you to think of 2 different athletes. Usain Bolt, right? What type of fuel source do you all think he uses? What's that? Mm-hmm. Yeah. They're going quick. If he's doing a 100, yeah. And then he's going through glycolysis, and maybe he's doing like 200. He's super fast, so maybe he does it in 10 seconds. But and now think of a marathon runner. Where are they burning? Fat. A lot of fat, right? So a lot of oxygen is getting utilized. So when we go through the metabolic assessment, what that's doing is measuring the amount of oxygen and carbon dioxide being exchanged through your body. Once the amount of carbon dioxide exceeds the amount of oxygen being exhaled and going through the analyzer, that's where we put your theoretical anaerobic threshold, okay? So that's where we're thinking you turn off like your fat utilization, or most of your fat utilization, and you start burning those carbohydrates. So those people that get on a treadmill and they're like, somebody told me I need to do 5.5 miles an hour, and that's just what I do every day. For a lot of our untrained clients that are probably over the age of like 25, that's where they're just burning carbohydrates for a long time. I use that, I know this should kind of generalize, but that's when people more have sedentary lifestyles, they have a desk job. That's when your body kind of starts changing a little bit too, between that 25 and 35 year age range. So this is what I used to do when I played football in high school or college, or this is what I used to do when I did sports or I ran track. Like that stuff you're no longer the same person 25 years down the road. So you do have to change what you do for your cardio. So I pulled up a client, and this is one of my clients, and this is his results. Now, typically what we want to do, and you can kind of help steer me with any questions, with the metabolic assessment, let's say you get somebody in here and they're like, do you think a metabolic assessment is perfect for them? Generally speaking, if they're a weight loss client and they do cardio on their own, a metabolic assessment, like every single weight loss client that's going to do cardio should do a metabolic assessment. Okay, and it's kind of a blanket statement. There might be like 5% that does not apply to, but if they're doing cardio on their own and they have a weight loss goal, they should be doing a metabolic assessment. Okay, if they're a performance athlete, you can use a metabolic assessment, but that's the same thing as like a performance athlete trying to go and train with you. Generally speaking, I can do it on my own or any of that, but if they're already investing in you to go and help them bring their performance to the next level, they should also probably do a metabolic assessment as well, so you can take their cardio to that next level and bring them forward. Who is a metabolic assessment not for? Somebody that's not going to be doing cardio, or that's not their primary focus, or somebody that's already making a big change in their life, that maybe this is something down the road for them 3 or 6 months, right? Think about those people that dive all in. I got my new Apple Watch, the Ultra, that has all the zones on it. I just signed up for my gym membership. I'm training 5 times a week, and then I'm going and taking yoga, and I'm taking Pilates, and I'm taking studio classes. That's a lot of change, right? We don't want to go and change and disrupt them that much. So again, this is where I know there's been some questions is like, what do we do? How do we manage all the tools that we have? Same thing that you all do when you do your training. Scale things in until you're really comfortable and you mastered that, and you need to go and scale things out. So we don't have to give somebody like this perfect program, like we used to call it Utopo, where they go and get nutrition coaching, PT, metabolic assessments, supplement, like all this stuff. That's a lot of change for somebody. And generally speaking, when you change so much, they can't grab onto it because they're like, I'm changing everything, and they revert back to their habits. So again, look at habit changing. We're gonna scale things in. And then you use your fitness professional, like your brain, your education. What is the most important, or what's going to make the biggest impact on this person's life today, okay, in a positive manner? So what I would do when I have clients or onboarding sessions, we used to call it training solutions back then, be like, what's going to be the biggest asset to this person, and when do I need to go and follow up with them? Typically what I would do is the person wants to start weight training and they want to start cardio, right? So I'm going through and I'm talking about why they should do training with me, and why they should do a metabolic assessment. They're doing cardio and they're doing strength training. I don't want to waste their time. I'm going to teach them how to do strength training while they're working with me, and I'm going to teach them how to do cardio. If they're coming to the gym, that's generally speaking something that you can go and implement into their life that's not going to be overwhelming. Maybe I get somebody that's like, you know what, I just want to get on a treadmill and I want to change my nutrition. Maybe I sell them nutrition coaching and a metabolic assessment, and their strength training, I'm going to follow up with them in 3 months from now. So scale in, scale out based off of what that person is telling you. So I don't want you all right now to be like, Joe told me all my clients that want to lose weight have to go and do this right this second. You use your brains and figure out what's the best thing for these clients. My ask is just, when we go through all this stuff, like use this as an extra tool on your tool belt. If you buy a new toolkit from the Home Depot and you need to go and change out a faucet, or you're using every tool in there, probably not, right? So same exact thing, but then I need to go and do electrical. So now I'm using a different tool. So metabolic assessment, what we typically do is we'll go and start somebody off with, they get on a treadmill and they do their warm up. I'm using treadmill to be any piece of cardio equipment you want. In the past, if you all remember, we used to have a very, very structured warm up. The problem with that very structured warm up is that they go and find people go and actually push too hard in that warm up. Especially somebody brand new to working out. I think I can do 4 miles an hour, let alone they haven't worked out in the last like 2 years. We have those people. So we just ask them to get to a point where they're like, all right, I'm breathing more, like I can feel my chest expand more. I notice that I'm taking bigger breaths in, I'm exhaling more, and then just we're taking them off. So that should be anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes just to get them moving and promote blood flow throughout the body. So it is no longer a structured warm-up for that individual. Additionally, for some of you in the past, we used to go and ask the person to come in fasted for a certain amount of time, good amount of rest, no coffee, none of that stuff. That's out the window. How many of your clients come in here fasted with no coffee, especially if they train with you at 9 o'clock in the morning? Like none, right? So that's a really positive change, because now we are going to put them in the condition that they typically work out in. We're taking a lot of those controls off, because those controls just, yeah, that would give you an optimal range, but nobody comes in here with those type of stats. So if that was one of my biggest feedbacks all the way in the past, I'm like, my client always drinks coffee, my client always eats their cereal, and they come here stressed out or whatever. Like, we got to stop that. So that's a really positive change that we have there. So we want them to come in normal conditions. Now the other thing you want to go on, same thing with your training sessions. Like, don't go and eat a steak dinner and then come here, because you're probably gonna barf. But like, just whatever a normal condition would go and be for that person. So after that, then we let the analyzer calibrate. We go through a bunch of questions and everything that's all in there. This will be part of the all certification or recertification to get certified. And then we'll go through like a stages and a warm-up. So I would ask, yeah.
Does it matter the time of day?
What I recommend is somebody does it when they typically would do cardio, right? Like I want this to just easily insert into their life. I don't want to go and say, come in at 6 a.m. and then you do your cardio at night. And that doesn't matter, right?
Well,
like
we used to do it like early in the morning.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's off the table. Like if my client's coming here after work every single time, why do I want to do an assessment with him at 6 a.m. when he's regularly getting changed and he's getting ready and driving to New York City for his work? I think the client that I have here, right? So like if he's going to come here at 8 o'clock every night, I'm doing his metabolic assessment at 8 o'clock every single night. Every time I go and retest. So then we go through and it's, let's use Sammy. Sammy, if I were to go and ask you to get on the treadmill for 20 minutes, what are you picking right now?
What am I at this speed?
Yeah.
For 20 minutes? 5.2?
Okay, 5.2. From there, I'm going and I'm looking through the assessments, and I'm finding it's going to be 5.0 miles per hour. My recommendation is always go maybe a stage lower. So if he said 5.5, I'm still probably choosing an assessment at 5. Reason being is because that might be where he thinks he has a really great workout, but I want to go and scale it down just 1 to go and make sure that like we're not reaching his anaerobic threshold too quick. We do an 8-minute test and then we have invalidated results. Okay, so I'm going to go and take it a step back. I'd rather the assessment be anywhere from like 12 to 14 minutes than 8 minutes. So scale it back a little bit. Then we go through different stages. So if we say 5, he's probably starting off at 3.6 miles an hour with an incline of 1. After 2 minutes, he goes to probably 4.0. After another 2 minutes, we go to 4.4, 4.8, 5.2, and then all the way up until he says, I'm at a 10 out of 10 difficulty. The results are showing that his anaerobic threshold is above 1, so the amount of carbon dioxide exceeds the amount of carbon dioxide exceeds the amount of oxygen. Or he's like, I'm falling off the treadmill, my body, like I'm not strong enough to continue going. Cool. Question? Somebody got a question?
I was going to say, what if it's just like, I don't know.
Yep. So for somebody that's brand new, the assessment again can go a little bit longer. I would probably take their warm up and just see when they're warming up on the treadmill. If they're just walking and it's 2.2 miles an hour and they're at an incline of 1 and they think it's really easy, I would probably do a walking protocol of like 3.0, right? So like we'll have to adjust and play with it. And the more assessments you do, you'll be able to better identify. On the flip side, let's say you choose a protocol that's way too easy for them. It kind of sucks to go and give up an hour, but we're not training, all of us here are not training 35 hours per week anyway. So maybe you just say, hey, let's reschedule, I'm gonna get a better protocol for you. Do the right thing for the client. They're gonna stay your client forever, right? Maybe you go and pick an assessment that's too hard. Hey, you know what, you went too hard. I'm gonna ask that we go and redo this while we have a better idea for you. You know, I put my best guess out there and I think you ramped up too quickly. They're still gonna stay with you forever, right? Like you put that client first, and wasting an hour, it's not a big deal. We have plenty of time. The metabolic technician should be able to go and have a pretty good range. Like I said, I always like to go lighter than too hard because there's a better chance of maybe the assessment will go 18 minutes and I'll reach their anaerobic threshold, then they reach their anaerobic threshold in 8 minutes, and then I can't do anything with that data. At least if it goes longer, I can go and still get them a really solid foundation to go and start doing the cardio. Yep.
What about, so, like, novices aside, like, you know, if somebody's never really worked out or not worked out, like, treadmill, you just, like, automatic. What if they're a biker, cyclist?
Yep.
Would you do the metabolic assessment on the bike?
Yeah, so I've had people where they're cyclists and I could do it on the bike. You
Okay.
can do it on the elliptical. There is a protocol in there for doing kettlebell swings.
Really?
I don't know anybody crazy enough to do that, but if you all want to do it, you'll be my first. We'll give it a shot.
Christoph?
Yeah, you can do the Stairmaster. Yeah, be here on the Stairmaster.
Stairmaster.
Yeah. The thing you want to go and do is just be really smart with your person. If they say I'm going to be doing the Stairmaster, all right, let's take a month and a half from now. Are you still going to be doing the Stairmaster 3 times per week? Right? Like, so what mode of cardio are you going to do 2 to 3 times per week on a regular basis for the next 3 months? I always like to validate these results every 3 to 6 months, or 10% body fat lost. 10% is a big change. You can even look at like 15 pounds. That's also a big change, and that's a lot of stress reduced from the body. 15 pounds, let's say somebody's about 220 pounds, that's about 7% of their weight. That's a big difference if you've ever been like a weight loss person or seen a client have a weight loss goal. What else?
When you do the treadmill protocol, does the treadmill automatically increase speed and incline?
Nope,
Or you have to
we'll do that.
We used to use the RPE, like the scale. You still using
Yep.
using that?
Yeah, so we're still going to use that, the little, when you go to the doctor's office, the happy face or the pain face, all the way through, or a scale of 1 to 10. That when you do the assessment, it's going to ask you on a scale of 1 to 10, how difficult is this? That's a great point. So when somebody gets to like a 9 or a 10, we're probably going to go and cut the test at that point in time because their body can't go and keep up. The good thing with that is it just also helps add extra validation to the results too. It's kind of like a second backstop. So every 2 minutes, right before I change the protocol, on a scale of 1 to 10, how are you feeling? Generally speaking, we don't want them to talk. They can go and point to it, or if they just go and give you a number, I don't care. They're not going to be talking to me back and forth throughout the assessment. That we're only going to have on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you feel? I want you to bump up to this, and then they bump up the treadmill, the elliptical, the rower, whatever they're choosing. Yeah. One other question over here.
I do. I mean, I have a. I mean, it's
Yeah.
probably relevant because of, like, COVID and stuff, but people like sharing the mask and stuff. We all like you vaccinated, you're not vaccinated, like people.
Yeah, so the masks are not shared.
Okay.
Everybody gets their own mask.
Okay.
What we ask is people bring their mask with them.
Okay.
If for whatever reason they forget it, they get charged for the service. If they want to reschedule, they pay $30 for another mask.
Okay.
Those tubes, so there is a cleaning protocol. We're probably going to ask that cleaning protocol get happened every week or so, where they flush it through like soapy water.
Okay.
It's a very specific protocol, so if y'all can go and figure out who wants to go and do that, that's on y'all. As far as like when I go and clip on the breathing stuff, the only thing that is shared are the tubes. There's nothing really staying on that tube. Like you're not bringing in anything from that tube. So everything's going and being pushed out from there. Even at that, it's like just small. It's just trying to go and pick up some airflow to go and push it through the system, so it can measure the amount of carbon dioxide and the amount of oxygen. You might have a couple people nervous or questioning it. Hey, everything's clean. You're not really going to get it. You have your own mask. If they're uncomfortable, we don't need to push them. It's the same thing with coming back here. We're not going to calling our clients and telling them you need to get your butt here so we can get you worked out. Like, we're not yelling at them unless you have that relationship with them, and maybe that's what they need. But you'll be able to go and figure out, are they using this as an excuse or are they using it as like a real concern? If it's a real concern, they're probably already wearing a mask here, right? What else?
You still doing resting metabolic rates also?
Not right now. Eventually we'll do the resting metabolic assessment. So, side note, little tangent. That measures the amount of fat you utilize and the amount of carbohydrates that you utilize at rest. Optimal is like 80% comes from fat, 20% comes from carbohydrates. General public will be 55 and 45. And favor of fat. I've seen worse.
I was 94%. I did
That's
mine.
because so I'm going to show you all some results with this. This was one of my clients that I had done shortly before the shutdown. What you'll get from the results and what your clients will go and get is their zones, their calories per minute, and their workload. Now, in the past, we used to have an LT Connect app where the member would be able to look at their phone, and it says it go faster or shorter, and it has the timers and everything in there. They're redoing all of that stuff, so that's not available right now. What we recommend is somebody will go and get their workout and tell them zone 1, zone 3, zone 1, zone 3. Just bring that sheet of paper or know what it is in your head. Typically, it's like 3 minutes of zone 1, 1 minute of zone 3, whatever. It's really easy for them to go and memorize those things, or they can write it down. I don't care. And then use their watch, use their Scotch, use whatever it is that they like to do for heart rate tracking. Apple Watch. I know we haven't used Apple Watches in the past or really promoted Apple Watches in the past. They came up with a new update where it does have 5 programmable zones in there now. So you can actually program their zones in an Apple Watch. Generally speaking, our members have that, or they have Garmin. Garmin's a really good one, and it tracks and records all their workouts and stuff. That's all off of their wrist. Again, there's some questionableness as far as accuracy of their heart rate, but generally speaking, that's a really solid foundation. It might be off by 3 beats per minute, but 3 beats per minute is not going to go and make or break your workout. We do sell Scotias. Those in the past were $90. I don't remember the amount. That's just, it goes on your forearm. We usually go and put the little sensor right here. There are 2 different types of colored lights on it, so that way if you have really light skin or really dark skin, it doesn't matter, it still picks up your heart rate really well. Or we have the chest straps. When we do the assessment, we'll probably go and use the Scotias for the most part. The chest straps are really good. Those are probably, I'd say, the most accurate because they literally just go and pick up the electric pulses through the body. The problem with the chest straps, though, women with underwire bras, women with heavier tops, way overweight people, men with really hairy chests. Okay. Sometimes with overweight people, you can go and put that on the back. It'll still go and pick it up totally fine on the back. But then you also have the issue if they have a hairy back. So, yeah, I'll be super straight up with that. We do ask that, and it does state it in the assessment result, the pre-assessment thing. If they feel sick, don't come in. And for females, don't wear an underwire bra. So we just have that. We do have the Scotia. They can still wear the Scotia and stuff like that, but just as a heads up. What are their questions so far? So, as we go down, zone 1, this is easy, promotes fat burning and aids in recovery. So, what I tell my people is if they get to zone 3, 4, or 5, I typically want them to get back down to zone 1 to go and recover. Now, if somebody's going to zone 3, it's probably like a 1-to-3, 1-to-2 ratio. And it could even be like a really, almost like a 1-to-1 ratio for your exertion, getting up to zone 3, and then your recovery back down. It depends on that person. If somebody's going to zone 4, I typically like a minimum of a 2-to-1 ratio. So for every minute that you're in zone 4, and I'm using minutes, it could be seconds, whatever, you're spending twice as long in zone 1, up to like a 1-to-4 ratio. And then zone 5, you'll typically find is anywhere from like a 1 to 5-ish ratio. So I might be doing a sprint, let's use a 100-meter dash, and then I'm walking on the way back. It should be like the time frame's about 5 to 1, roughly for an adequate recovery. Now, if you have like an athlete, you might have a 1-to-1 ratio there just to go and keep them pushing. But generally speaking, even when you go and do this, you'll have some sort of like longer duration on the recovery aspect and a shorter duration on the work zone as you get to those higher levels. For zone 2, somebody doesn't always necessarily need to recover back down to zone 1. You can have just a workout where you get up to zone 2, you maintain it, and then you just taper off at the end of your workout. But generally speaking, once you get up to zone 3, you'll recover. So your base. Your aerobic base is at the heart rate where your body most efficiently burns fat. Zone 2 trains your body to burn fat efficiently and improve endurance. So this would be like your endurance athlete right here. Or even just your client that you want to go and be able to push them from being able to do 20 minutes of cardio to eventually 30 minutes of cardio. Then you have your zone 3, which increases your tolerance for anaerobic training, improves anaerobic threshold. Then you have your threshold. Your body shifts from burning mostly fat to mostly carbohydrates. Zone 4 increases your peak VO2 and your anaerobic threshold. And then zone 5 increases your peak VO2 and your anaerobic threshold. They'll get like a chart here. There was my client, he just couldn't push himself any further. Like once we got there, he's like, I just gotta tap out. My body's not strong enough to go further. So you'll see like a really high utilization of fat, but this kind of shows you right here, like the high utilization of fat, and then it eventually decreases over time. Ideally, if my client didn't get to a point where he's like, I'm just exhausted right now, this would be about 80-ish% fat utilization, 70 to 80%. This will be about 60, 40, 50, 50, 50. This one will be about 25 in favor of fat, and then 75 in carbohydrates, and then 0, 0. Again, he just couldn't go any faster. He's like, I'm just done. I'm like reached my max speed on here. We'll go and show him a diagram, and we'll break it through like your body stored calories. So again, when I talk to a client, I'm like, think about Usain Bolt and how fast he runs. Can he do that for a mile? No. Can he do that for 3 or 4 or 5 miles? Absolutely not, right? Maybe a mile. He's a freak, but generally speaking, like there's a stopping point. So anybody done track and they hit the wall, right? You hit the wall like you sprint. I remember my first time ever doing track. I'm like, all right, I'll do the mile, and I like sprinted. I'm like, I'm beating everybody. I get to a quarter of a mile. And I'm not even a quarter mile. I think it was about 1/8 of a mile. And I'm like molasses, right? That's that wall. Like I just burned everything, and I couldn't turn back on fat. I was probably in like the 7th grade then. It wasn't yesterday, I swear. And then fat, that's like a marathon runner. They can go 26 miles, or ultra marathon runners, and they just go. They're just constantly burning fat. They might have some carbohydrates while they're going and running up a hill, or at the very end of the race where they're sprinting through the finish line. But for the most part, that's the fat that's the energy that they're using. This was my client's VO2. I'll show you all. He was in the poor range and then just progressed over time. So this is my client Jim. I'm going to bring him in here and do a reassessment on him. He hasn't really been working out with me because I no longer train. But I was like, hey, let's do your metabolic assessment, and then I'd love to show everybody. So anybody that's free, I'll give you like a week's heads up of when he's coming in and go from there. But you'll be able to see this. This was his warm up. We can skip that now. But what is a warm up for? You want to do your warm up because that's just going to go and basically turn your body on. You're going to promote blood flow. You're going to work out a little more optimally, and you also utilize more fat from that because you're just on. This is probably the coolest part of the assessment results. So you'll see where they are. This is back in 2017. This is all the way up to 2000. This one was from 2018 that I pulled, and you can see like this is their miles per hour. Where they were when they were in each of their zones. So you can see like he would regress and then progress back up his incline. And he just like, his goal wasn't just to go and do cardio or improve his cardio. So the protocol pretty much across the board was about the same. But as you can go and see here, his heart rate, you can see his heart rate gradually decrease. Even when he was to reach zone 4, it was lower. His zone 3 was lower. His zone 2 was lower. And his zone 1 was like a lower heart rate than when he first started. So their heart no longer has to work harder to get a higher workload or the same workload completed. This was their calories per minute. Generally speaking, you'll see their calories per minute go and increase. This is his fat calories per minute. So as you can see, like their calories per minute stayed about the same, but they went from a lot of calories coming from if you look at the other ratio of it, they didn't have a lot of fat being utilized, and now they're using a lot of calories from fat here. And then his peak VO2 went from 46 and 44 to 50. We don't have his like original results. I've been training this guy since 2014, but like gradually improved from there. So you can go and see all their results and their progress. And then this was his weight % body fat. So this was him at 226 and 28% body fat, all the way down to 207 and then 16.7% body fat. So, and that's over the course of about a year for this individual. What's next? So this is where the tech and the DPT, the person that's called trainer, have to be aligned. What is your goal? Why are you committed to achieving this? So again, we're bringing everything back to the why. What time commitment can you make each week, and then how many days, because we're gonna program your cardio right now. What types of exercise do you go and enjoy? And then we go over some healthy tips. So movement, nutrition, sleep, mood, and stress. And it's just like extra good, really good tips. From there, so if I go and pull up Jim again. So we would go through here and we can view his workout plan. So I would click view workout plans. And then I can program all of his workouts and stuff in here. So he doesn't have a plan in here because we haven't done metabolics in 3 years. But I could go and build him a workout plan let's say starting today, and then how many weeks, okay? At this point in time, like we used to do metabolic conditioning where we charge and give them all that stuff. Just give them 12 weeks of workouts, right? Like we don't need to nickel and dime our clients. 12 weeks should be a good time frame between now and when they should retest, because they should see really great results. So number of days per week. How many days a week is this person doing cardio? Let's say 3 days per week he's going to do cardio, 2 days a week strength training, and then 2 days a week of recovery. And then total conditioning time, minutes per week. This is where you have to maybe even bring up the calculator. But let's say I want him to do about 30 minutes each time he does cardio. That's the amount of time frame that he can go and commit. That'd be 90 minutes. So I'd put 90 in here, and then I'd go to next. And now he's prescribed a zone 3 day, a zone 1 and 2 day, and then a zone 4 day. So this is where I'd have a conversation. What day of the week is he going to be training with me the hardest? Let's just say he's a Saturday, Tuesday client. Those are pretty frequent clients. I might give him his zone 3 day on Monday before he has his strength training day with me. Tuesdays are going to be a moderate workout because I'm training him after work, right? So I might go and give him more of like a recovery day on Tuesday or Wednesday. And then Saturdays are going to be his day with me, but he's going to come in Thursday maybe. And so I give him like an easy day, then I'm going to go and give him a hard day. He has a rest day, then he has his hard day with me. Okay, then he has a rest day, then he has a moderate day on his own for cardio. So we have those conversations. If you're a metabolic technician, I ask that you just have a quick conversation with the trainer beforehand. Okay, so if Danielle's going and recommending a client to go and get metabolic assessment and they're going to be doing it with me, my questions to her is, what's on your plan right now? What are they doing? Just so that way I can just go and fit it exactly as she says. So if Danielle goes and says, you know what, I want you to go and do your hard day the day before you have training with me, and then I say, that's a really bad idea to go and do that without having a conversation with her, I just discredit her, or she just discredited me. There's a really poor member experience, and they're not going to know who to go and believe at that point in time because we're not on the same page, right? As you all know with clients, they pay you for your 55 minutes, but there's more than 55 minutes that go into each and every client that we have here. So have that conversation, right? We get paid really fairly, really well. We're making like $70 an hour. Just have that conversation, get that out of the way so you're all on the same page and aligned. If there's ever misalignment, those are really, really easy conversations. Like Danielle and I might talk, and she might be like, hey, I told them this, you told them that. I can just go over to the next session and be like, hey, you know, I didn't have this type of information, I apologize. What Danielle makes total sense. Or if I think whatever she said doesn't make sense, we'll have that sidebar conversation. The client has no clue, but then Danielle's the trainer, so she overrules in that. I'll give my feedback as a metabolic tech. And then from there, whether she wants to continue to go and refer people to me as a metabolic technician, or you know what, we have this one off, we're going to do this own thing with this one. The client doesn't need to know about that stuff, right?
Can everyone become a metabolic tech?
Yep, of course. So let's say I save it and I input it. This is what Jim's going to go and see. He'll get an email the day before each of these workouts. And you as the tech can double click it. So again, this is their zone 3 day. Remember when I said there was like a 3-to-1 ratio? So they're doing 3 to 1 on this one. This one can go either way, 3 recovery or 3 work and then a recovery. So we're going to go and teach him how to go and like push himself a little bit.
This syncs with their lifetime training app?
Not right now. Eventually it will.
Oh, okay.
So for Jim, all he needs to know is I need to warm up, and then 3 times I'm doing 3 minutes of zone 3, 1 minute of zone 1, and I just flip-flop back and forth. Okay? He can write it down. I don't really care how he does it. I just need him to get it done. Wednesday, so they're going to do 5 minutes and 3 minutes. and they're just gonna build their aerobic base and build his recovery. Now let's go to a couple months out. So I did this for 12. You can see this pushes a little bit more. So now they're up to 36 minutes, where there's 1 minute of zone 1 and then 5 minutes of zone 2. So we're scaling them in to get to those higher workloads without overwhelming them on their first week, right? So they'll have a shorter time. They'll have more recovery in their splits potentially. So some different things there. What questions do you all have? I know that was a ton of information. Like I said, for like the next 6 weeks, I'm going to send you all an invite, just kind of open office hours to go over this stuff.
Can we upload this document onto like the Lifetime, like you know where we can put meal plans and stuff like that?
Yeah,
Is it
so
possible to do
it
that?
used to do that where like I could sync it and then my phone would have the timer and everything.
Yeah.
They're revamping that. They said the only way to go and get the new system and the new product in there is to go and totally shut it down. They don't have a timeline of when they go and get it. For anybody that was here prior to the shutdown until now, our technology obviously has totally changed. We're not quite in the 21st century. We might be in the 20th, but we don't know we have bad tech.
So how do they get this?
So this gets emailed to them the day before their workout.
Like a document?
Yeah, so they'll get an email and it'll show.
Oh, okay,
It'll
each
show
day.
this. Yep. So
Okay.
if this is on, so for example, if this is on Wednesday, Jim's getting emailed on Tuesday. Okay, so he has it over because we don't want to go and email them and you woke me up at 12 o'clock or something like that. Like we give them a little bit of time to go and look, digest it. What else?
We used to have, when we were doing it, we used to have a ton, it seemed like a ton of software issues when we were, it's something a bit
They
different
seem
about
to have
that?
worked a lot of that stuff out.
Okay.
The other thing that they did go and say is like, especially with the software issues, and part that tied into it is people were overexerting themselves on their warm-up, so then their stuff never actually recovered or got down. Some other things with some of the other software issues, like connectivity and all that stuff, seems to be worked out.
Keeping it plugged in.
Yeah, keep it plugged in. I don't know if Bergen County was doing that in the past or not, but keep it plugged in. The other thing that they want is, so if this is the analyzer and this is the treadmill over here, as it's calibrating, we want to be about 8 feet away. It's kind of really weird. I don't know where they got 8 feet from. I don't know how many testers. They're like, stay 8 feet away. We found it to work better. So, I'm not gonna ask any questions because they aren't.
When we used to do these before, with a big emphasis on people who went to small group training classes because we used to be able to put their heart rates on the TVs and to manage the class like that.
Yeah.
Now that that's not a thing anymore.
It is a thing.
Well, is it coming back?
Yeah, so as of right now, because we don't really do the heart rate stuff, nobody's been really going and connecting LT Connect. So the small group instructors will go through as well, like a little education how to put that up. Their stuff is going to be on the screen. When I go through the LT Connect app, I can program in a timer for those cardio splits. The best thing is when somebody does small group, as long as they wear their Scosh or their chest strap that's AMT plus, they'll actually get a recap of their workout. So at the end of it, it's going to say, here's how many fat calories you burned, here's how many carbohydrate calories you burned, and here was your like wavy chart of what your results were. What else?